The following is an AZPM original production.
For AZPM, I'm Mark McLemore, and this is Arizona Spotlight. Coming up, a look at a play at the Invisible Theater that explores one young woman's quest to understand the true meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Adiba Nelson shares about her new book for young readers. It's called Oshun and Me, A Story of Love and Braids. And a conversation with Micky Dolenz about what being a Monkee has meant to him. Those stories are next on Arizona Spotlight. The Invisible Theater's current production, What the Constitution Means to Me, tells the true story of the playwright Heidi Schreck. As a teenager, she participated in several high school debates about the U.S. Constitution, and over time she learned to define the important role it has played in shaping Americans' personal lives and the values that it represents. Next, Sophia Hammer talks with the lead actor, Betsy Cruz Craig, and director Carrie J. Cole about the play.
Do you guys want to explain what the play is about or what people should know before going into this play?
It really is an opportunity for us in the theater to be part of a conversation with the audience in a different way than we normally get a chance to. And the conversation really is about everything that is going on in the U.S. right now. It's a conversation, not a confrontation. It covers everything from historically the Supreme Court of the 20th century, with allusions to right now, a lot of really fascinating information about the Constitution, but also really personal information that we get to share with the playwright Heidi Schreck, as embodied by Betsy Cruz Craig.
Throughout the play, you see this 15-year-old version of Heidi, and you get to see her older as well, but I feel like many young people today feel very disconnected from our political and legal systems and don't necessarily see themselves in them anymore.
If there's something that this play points out is how powerful apathy is and how we really have a responsibility as citizens to drop that apathy and get active. And nobody is probably more responsible for that than young people. Mm-hmm. I had someone talk to me about the play just this morning, and they were saying, oh my God, I hope that high school students come and see this play because I'm at the tail end of my activism. This is the kind of play that will give young people hope. And I think it gives them hope in the idea that they're activated with knowledge about how powerful the Constitution really is and how we really can evoke change if we try hard enough, and that if we're upset about something, the apathetic response is, well, I can't do anything. There's nothing I can do to change the system. You come and see a performance of this play and you watch a woman who expresses to you how important the Constitution was to her as a 15-year-old as it related to her life. And now, as a 50-something-year-old woman, looking back and reflecting on the power of that document to shape not only her life, but 4 generations of women in her family prior to her.
Carrie, I'll start with you, and then we can go to Betsy. Is there any challenges that you have faced during the production of this play?
I think the challenges that I've faced directing this play, directing What the Constitution Means to Me, have really been outside the rehearsal space in dealing with the craziness of how much has happened since we decided to do this play. We actually, as soon as it came out, both of us were like, we need to do this play and we need to do this together. And when we finally have been able to, the decision was made well before the election. I actually had to choose to not really actively work on the play until after the election. And that was so that I could keep going. One of the things that really resonates for me and why working on this play right now has been so important to me personally is the reminder that the rhetoric that is out there about the Constitution may or may not reflect the actual document. And when we start talking about some of the amendments and some of the ways that they've been interpreted, we then are really looking at not the founding history, the people who say, well, I believe in the Constitution verbatim. Well, it has been interpreted from the moment it was signed. So to be able to say, wait a second, how does this relate to my life right now?
I think that people look at the title of this play, What the Constitution Means to Me, and they think they're going to come in and get a didactic lecture about the intricacies and the machinations of the Constitution and the amendments. The play is not about that. The play is absolutely about the way that this legal document shapes our lives, though the right to choose, the right to become a citizen, the right to own property, the right to leave your husband, the right to be a woman that can have a job and own a credit card, and all of these issues that we take for granted. I think we go through our lives and we become apathetic until something happens to disrupt. This play was written in 2017, before Dobbs, before Roe v. Wade was overturned. And now here we are in 2025, living in a completely different society. The nature of this, the shape of our environment as women and our ability to choose has changed.
Carrie, has anything changed in the play now that Roe v. Wade has been overturned?
The play itself hasn't changed, but I would say, given the news right now, too, there are moments that shift on stage just based on what's happened today, what's happened yesterday. Things land differently, both for the performers, but also for the audience.
How is it paying homage and also critiquing the document during a time when democracy feels at stake for a lot of people?
It points out the contradictions and the hypocrisy that exists within democracy. But the other thing that the play ultimately does is inspire hope. I received a message on Monday morning from an audience member who had seen the show on Sunday, and if I can, I'll share it with you. She said, "Today, as I hear rhetoric about our Constitution, I keep relating it to what I learned from you. I'm so grateful. I'm actually a bit more hopeful, too. By your actions, I was reminded that we can do something. We can speak up. We must pay attention." It was an inspiring performance. And I only share that because, to me, if one person can walk away from an examination of both sides of the Constitution and leave with a little bit more hope and a little bit of inspiration about what our part is in this process, and leave the apathy to the curb, kick it to the curb, then we've done our jobs.
What the Constitution Means to Me is at the Invisible Theater now through February 2nd. You can find a link to the schedule on the Arizona Spotlight page at azpm.org. Adiba Nelson is an author and occasional Arizona Spotlight contributor. And as a mom, she noticed two things that were consistently missing in children's books: the representation of dark-skinned Latin children and children with disabilities. In her new picture book for young readers called Oshun and Me, A Story of Love and Braids, she combined the two, while also sharing elements of African spirituality.
It is not the first book for young readers that I have written, but it is the first book that has been traditionally published.
In this case, it's Macmillan?
Yes.
Tell me about your first book briefly. What was the title?
The very first book was Meet Clarabelle Blue. And I wrote it because I couldn't find any children's books on the market that adequately represented my daughter, who is at the intersection of race and disability. She's Black, she's female, and she's disabled. And in 2011, there just was nothing on the market that I could read to her where she could see herself. And so I decided to write one.
What is something you learned in the process of writing that book that helped you on this one?
Making sure that the main character, especially if the main character is disabled, speaks and has their own voice in the book and actually carries the story of the book. You know, when I wrote Meet Clarabelle Blue, it was for my daughter. So the narrator, if you will, in the book was the mom, but it was about the little girl. And then I realized, after someone pointed it out, that she doesn't have her own voice. It was such an eye-opening moment for me because I'm such an advocate for visibility and accessibility and inclusion and voice for the disabled community. And I had completely overlooked that in my own book, where the character represents my own child. And it was kind of one of those moments of, how could I not give my own child a voice in this book, when the whole point of writing the book was so that she could see herself, right? And so when I was writing Oshun and Me, that was very much a part of my thought process of, this little girl is carrying the story. The story has nothing to do with her disability, but she's going to carry the story. We're going to hear her voice.
Yes, the central character in Oshun and Me does use a wheelchair. How old is your daughter now?
My daughter is 15 now.
Through your relationship with her, how would you rate the importance of representation? We hear about it a lot, but has it really made that big of a difference for your daughter?
Every time she sees someone in a book or on television or even just out in the world who is also in a wheelchair, she immediately recognizes it. She gets so excited and so happy. She's like, oh, it's me. They're like me. It means so much to her to see herself just out in the world, living life, in books, in TV shows, in movies. It not only says to her that, she exists in this world, but that she's an important part of this world. And I think that's the case for anyone, not necessarily the disabled community only. Everybody wants to know that they're seen, they're heard, they exist, they count, they matter.
Adiba, can you share with our audience some ways in which your relationship with your own aunt is reflected in the story through the little girl and her mother and the ritual that they share together?
Yes, absolutely. So I think one of the key things, I remember always having really good food at my Tita Anning's house. And there is a scene in the book where Yadira and her mom are sharing a plate of alcapuria, which is a Puerto Rican snack. It's an appetizer. It's delicious. And while my Tita Anning didn't make alcapuria, my nana did. And we would have those things, and culture and food go hand in hand in my family. And so when I was writing the book and thinking about the things that I experienced at my Tita Anning's house, I couldn't leave, the food part of my culture out. And then there's Hair Day. I don't know a Black family in this world that does not have Hair Day. As a matter of fact, I actually just had Hair Day with my daughter on Sunday. For some, it's a lovely process where you get to pick out your hairdo and your barrettes. And for those of us who are tender-headed, it's not so great. There could be some screaming and some tears. But I wanted Yadira in the story to have a really beautiful Hair Day experience.
The title of Oshun and Me refers to a goddess from African spirituality. And I wonder, where did the decision to make this such an important part of the book come from?
I wish I could tell you that it was a conscious, I'm going to write about Oshun. It was not. It literally just spoke to me. It was, I want to tell this story. And in Latin communities, in Black communities, in African communities, we often say we are very much tied to the ancestors. We are very much tied to the spirits, the gods, the goddesses. And it was one of those things where I just woke up one day and I was like, I need to tell the story of Oshun. But I need to tell it in a way that I would have needed to understand it when I was a kid.
And now, Adiba Nelson will read a short excerpt from Oshun and Me.
Oshun is the goddess of love and beauty. She is one of the most incredible goddesses to ever exist. Before Oshun was created, the earth was dry and sad. Not much could grow, and there was no joy to be found. Olodumare, the supreme creator, realized what was missing, and so he brought Oshun to life as a symbol of what the people and the land needed most: love, kindness, and beauty. As soon as she took her first breath and stepped into the world, everything began to blossom. And that, in part, is how we got here, and why you're so beautiful. I wiggle and giggle as Mommy tries to tickle me. Once, when the land was too dry to feed all the animals and people of her village, Oshun used cowrie shells to save them. She asked the shells where they should go and then threw them onto the ground. The shells faced east, where the rains were plenty and the land was full of food. The cowrie shells told Oshun how to help the people she loved. And because I love you, I put the cowries in your hair so you carry her protection with you. When you're scared or sad, you can just touch your cowrie shell and it will give you the strength and power of Oshun, the most beautiful and loving goddess. The next day, as she drops me off at school, Mommy kisses my forehead and says, "May the cowrie protect you throughout the day, my beautiful Yadira." I can't believe how big my new school is. I feel like there are tiny froggies hopping around in my tummy. My heart starts to beat fast. I'm so nervous. But then I do exactly what Mommy said to do. I touch the cowrie shell on my forehead and run my fingers through the cowrie shells in my braids. Click-clack, click-clack. When I hear the other kids laughing, I really want to play with them. I walk around a giant tree and see everyone playing together. Could it be that Oshun was guiding me to the kids on the playground, just like she guided her people to safety? I pretend Oshun is clapping for me as I run toward the swings. As I swing faster and higher, the gold clips sparkle in the sun like shooting stars streaming behind me.
Adiba Nelson read from her book Oshun and Me, A Story of Love and Braids, fully illustrated by Aliana Harris. It's a book for young readers from Macmillan. There is a book release party on Saturday, January 25th at 10 a.m. at the Children's Museum, located at 200 South 6th Avenue. Adiba Nelson and Oshun and Me will be a part of Discovery Night on Thursday, January 30th at the Children's Museum from 5 till 7 p.m. Designed to be an American TV alternative to the Beatles, the origin story of the Monkees is not the most auspicious in rock history, but it's certainly the most unique. In 1965, more than 400 young men answered an ad seeking folk and roll musicians-singers for acting roles in new TV series. Eventually, Davy Jones, Michael Nesmith, Peter Tork, and Micky Dolenz were selected to become what many called the Pre-Fab Four. But they also soon became close friends, united by their youth, creativity, and their involvement in the counterculture movement of their generation. The Monkees TV show ran for just 2 seasons, but lived on for decades in reruns. It was followed by a surprisingly political anti-war movie called Head in 1968, and a string of albums where the band wrote and played their own songs, despite long-standing rumors to the contrary. Micky Dolenz, the Monkees' real lead singer and secret weapon, is currently on a career high, releasing 2 successful EPs featuring songs by his bandmate Michael Nesmith and alternative rock legends REM. Plus, he has a new live album. He's coming to share songs and stories at the Fox Tucson Theater next week, and that gave me a chance to talk with one of my favorite entertainers.
Hey, Mark, Micky Dolenz.
Oh, man, so good to talk to you again. We met up on the phone in 2016. That was a long time ago now.
Whoa! Hello.
Hello.
Great to talk to you again.
Now, the last time I interviewed you, a lovely woman named Connie Porton, who worked at the Fox Theater, wrote me a message after she heard our interview. And I wanted to read this message to you and then just have you react to it. Okay?
Sure.
Okay. Your fun fact for today. I saw the Monkees in 1967 at the Odd in Buffalo, New York. It says, My older sister, 12 years old, asked Dad to take her and 4 friends to the concert as a birthday gift. I got the little sister default ticket. I was 7 years old. I remember the whole thing vividly. Dad, who was a blue-collar union printer, wore a dark 2-piece suit, white shirt, and skinny tie, because that's how grown-ups dressed for concerts. I knew this was a big deal if he was all spiffed up. We were waiting in the car, a white Thunderbird with a red interior, starting to back out of the driveway, when Mom, dressed like Laura Petrie, ran out the front door with cotton balls for our ears, so we didn't suffer rock and roll hearing loss. My older sister is annoyed and refuses to take the cotton balls. Mom reaches through the open window and sticks mine in my pocket. Our seats at the Odd were high up, but a good view. A beautiful lady is sitting in the one empty seat next to my dad, and I don't like the fact that she's talking to him when my mom isn't there. That makes me laugh thinking about it because my parents were married for 61 years. And in hindsight, I think that beautiful lady was probably 16 or 17 years old. The crowd goes crazy when the Monkees hit the stage. My sister is screaming. She starts crying real tears. A nail polish bottle lands by my feet. I know all of the songs by heart, but I can't hear the vocals due to the screaming, not due to the cotton balls. It says, super fun. I was hooked on live music from that day forward. Next stop, Neil Diamond as an 8-year-old.
Wow. Oh, my gosh. There's a movie there. Yeah, well, what can I say? They were crazy times, you know. I'm told I had a great time.
I believe you've written about that, haven't you?
Yeah, right. It was pretty crazy. Yeah, she described it, you know, very, very well. It was very difficult for anybody to hear, including me. Mm-hmm. I remember sitting at the drums and not being able to even hear my own drums. Mm. I had to hit my leg, which was level with the snare drum. I couldn't hear the snare drum at times, so I would hit my leg in time, hopefully, to the song. And finally, the company built me this bandage to put over my leg because it was getting black and blue. And there were no monitors. The sound systems were incredibly primitive.
Well, I mean, people who maybe haven't played in bands before don't realize that you guys, the Beatles, the Stones, the top-of-the-line bands who had the best technical support were still running less power than your average garage band today.
Oh, my goodness, less power than your cell phone.
Yeah.
Oh, it was very crude, very, very crude, yeah. But fun.
I'm glad you had a good time. Your career is on an upswing right now. You've really got a lot going on.
Well, I've always had something going on, you know. I move around a lot because a moving target's harder to hit.
Well, congratulations on the success of your recent recordings, the Mickey Sings Mike Nesmith EP and the REM EP. And I found some photos of you hanging out with REM, and they seemed so happy to be in your presence.
Yeah, it was mutual. That made it lovely. Michael Stipe was incredibly gracious, and fortunately, they liked my renditions of the songs.
Well, when I heard that you had done that EP, I thought, well, that's kind of a strange fit. And then I listened to it and I realized, oh no, this is right in Mickey's wheelhouse. Shiny Happy People and Radio Free Europe, standout cuts. Excellent job.
Christian did an incredible job on that, as he did on Dolan Sings Nesmith, you know. Mm-hmm. He has quite a knack for re-envisioning songs, and he was integral as a producer.
Does he remind you of Michael sometimes?
Oh, yeah. Chip off the old one.
What kind of a show are you going to be bringing to Tucson, Mickey? What can the audience expect?
You got it, yeah. Well, it's, when I say a new show, you know, I always do all the Monkee hits in their entirety. And I feel that's a contract that you have with the audience. And so I discovered over the years that as long as they know they're going to get those big hits, you can kind of then go off and do other material, deep album cuts from the Monkees, unusual things, you know, maybe something from the movie Head, for instance, which are some wonderful songs in that movie. And then also over the years, I discovered I can even do non-Monkee tunes, but it helps to have a story attached. Like, for instance, I do a song by Chuck Berry. It's Johnny Be Good. So I used to do it and not say anything. I just love the song. But I could tell the audience was like, why is he covering a Chuck Berry tune?
Yeah.
And I realized that if I told the story of why, Johnny Be Good by Chuck Berry was my audition piece for the Monkees. It's the song that got me the gig. So when I preface it with that story, it all makes sense.
Mickey, is there a way that you feel that you are carrying on the legacy of the Monkees and of your friends? Is there a way where their presence becomes felt in your life? And
well, it's I know where you're going with that. And to be frank, it's like to some degree they've never left, because it's still all around me, everywhere I look, every song I sing, everything I do. And so in some weird sense, that they are still here. You spend that much time and go through that kind of an experience. And then, of course, singing the songs, it's just around me all the time. It's never left. Yep, I feel blessed.
Micky Dolenz brings an evening of songs and stories to the Fox Tucson Theater on Friday, January 31st at 7:30 p.m. Thank you for listening to Arizona Spotlight. This show is a production of AZPM. The production engineer is Jim Blackwood. The assistant producer is Sophia Hammer. I'm producer and host Mark McLemore.
AZPM podcasts are made possible in part by donations from listeners like you. Learn more at support.azpm.org. Thank you.